solid 2 or 3 starter, especially around a collection, in a good baseball team like a Chicago Cub baseball team, like the Los Angeles Dodgers. So he has an opportunity to make some hay there. But for a guy in Yu Darvish, his time, he didn't help himself with his World Series performance. That's for darn sure.
To me, his stock declined. If I was an owner, I would say, I was going to try to sign Yu Darvish, but at this point, no, I'm moving on. In the chat room, Okabella says the Yankees better thanks to the Marlins and Derek Jeter. The Marlins ain't going nowhere anyway. Yeah, Derek Jeter gave his former team a gift. Now, they did have to pay a lot for that gift, but he gave him a gift. Mocha says, Kevin, you're a Yankees fan.
Yes, you heard me say that correctly. My Yankees, as they were able to get Giancarlo Stanton. That's an interesting story that's taking place in South Florida. Dan Le Batard had a very intense interview with Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred.
It looked like, if anybody's seen the video, like he was getting ready to cry. He was so passionate.
Yes.
He's like, so you mean to tell me you didn't know? Like, bro. Like, I love my teams too, but I'm not crying because Giancarlo Stanton is gone because you weren't going anywhere anyway. But he was almost passionate, like about to cry, it seemed like.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, Le Batard is a guy who has covered the Miami sports scene and the South Florida sports scene for a very long time and has been very passionate about Florida sports down there. And the contention for a lot of Marlins fans is they feel like they've been sold a false set of goods when it comes to this baseball team and the way that they have formulated taxpayer dollars to buy and build that expensive monstrosity of a stadium in Marlins Park, and then being sold the fact that not only when they build that stadium they'll have a contender to play in it, and then you have a new ownership group come in with Derek Jeter as the chief operating officer of this baseball team, trying to get rid of a lot of debt when it comes to this Miami Marlin baseball team. So there's a lot of tension in South Florida because of the way that they've gutted this baseball team on several occasions. Even though they've won 2 World Series championships, a lot of folks in South Florida are very angry because of the fact that they have now sold away their best player in Giancarlo Stanton. Also, D. Gordon was traded earlier to this hot stove season. So Miami Marlin fans are angry, and Dan Le Batard is the antithesis of that. And if you haven't seen that interview, it's about a 17-minute interview that he had with Rob Manfred. It was extremely intense and very awkward at points.
It was some moments where Manfred was almost like, "Why are you talking to me like this? I'm the commissioner." So it definitely went to a heated discussion. Mocha Bella's from Miami. She says Dan Le Batard is very serious about Miami teams. Dan Le Batard speaks his mind. He definitely does.
Yeah.
Now, kind of a side note, didn't he have a show on ESPN?
He still does.
He still does.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And that interview took place on his radio show earlier this week. He's obviously a longtime journalist down there. Obviously, his show was a lot more lighthearted than what it was for that 17 minutes. Right. But he put on his journalist hat and took Rob Manfred to task about that. So that'll be an interesting situation to see how that continues to play out for the folks down there in South Florida with that baseball team.
Yeah, he went in.
Yeah, he did.
Mocha Bella says, we Marlins fans are very upset down here. Yeah, it's not fair, but the bright spot is you have Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter has a baseball mind. The guy's smart. He has businesses. It could go one of two ways. It could go great, where he leads them down a road where maybe like the Astros. The Astros rebuilt in a matter of 2 years, where they went from the worst to the best, and look, they won a World Series. So can Derek Jeter, it can either go that way, or Derek Jeter is not a good owner at all, and it completely goes to hell in a handbasket, which I hope that doesn't happen. But I think Derek Jeter is smart enough to push this team in the right direction. So Jake Arrieta, like you did mention, that's another free agent. He has some similar teams to Darvish, the Dodgers, the Rangers, Yankees, Blue Jays, Angels. I think in this situation, Arrieta is going to want to get paid. So he's going to go to the team that can obviously pay him the most money. He's 32 years old. I don't necessarily know if he's an ace anymore. The Dodgers are definitely in the running. They had Darvish. I don't think they're going to go down the Darvish road anymore. So Jake Arrieta could definitely be a spot. Can definitely go to the Dodgers. I think the Rangers is definitely a spot too. The Rangers were in on Ohtani. It didn't end up working out. So now they have money floating around, obviously. So Jake Arrieta would be a good pickup for them. You being a Yankees fan, can the Yankees dump money into Jake Arrieta too? Do you think they have that money to make a deal like that happen?
Yeah, the Yankees. This is the thing about the Yankees. So the Yankees get a bad rap for one. Number one, so when we look at the championship teams that the Yankees used to have, the Derek Jeters, the Bernie Williams, all those guys are homegrown. Now, it wasn't until later, in the late 2000s and beyond, where they started, acquiring certain talents like Alex Rodriguez, Roger Clemens, and the like. But the Yankees obviously are trying to not only control spending, even though it doesn't feel like it when they got Giancarlo Stanton. But Brian Cashman, the longtime GM for this baseball team, has a very good plan. And the thing about the Yankees is they have a very deep farm system. So if the Yankees have the commodities and the prospects and the cash, the bottomless bank account that is the Steinbrenner family, to put into this Yankee baseball team. So I don't think Jake Arrieta will fit into the plans of the Yankees going into this offseason. He's looking for a big-time deal. A former Cy Young Award winner will be commanding a large contract. But when you look at free agents across Major League Baseball, the Yankees are always in play just because, as we mentioned, their bottomless bank account when it comes to the Steinbrenner family. But JM Brian Cashman has been very, not necessarily cautious, but very conscious of the spending that he's doing, and for all the money that it looks like the Yankees are spending on Giancarlo Stanton. It was actually a financially very smart move, and honestly saved us money, especially since we were talking about potentially going after Bryce Harper when he becomes a free agent from the Washington Nationals. So I think the Yankees are effectively spending their money, and they took a chance when they saw an opportunity to get Giancarlo Stanton, but I don't think they necessarily will be in the market for Jake Arrieta this time around, just because of the amount of money that Jake Arrieta is commanding at this point. So, and rightfully so. This is a guy who's had a lot of success over the last several years, especially with the Chicago Cubs, and as we mentioned, a former Cy Young Award winner. So, I don't think he's necessarily in the Yankees' plans, though, but you never know, though. The Yankees could always surprise us. We saw that Giancarlo Stanton trade come out of nowhere. So if they do make a move, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised, because that's what the Yankees can do with that type of payroll and that type of bank account that the Steinbrenners present. So
right, exactly. They can do whatever they want, basically, at the end of the day. But Arrieta, I'm thinking he's going to go to the Dodgers or the Rangers. The Blue Jays, they probably have the money, so that could possibly be a spot. And the Angels, I think, are out. They got Ohtani, so are they going to be willing to spend more money? I think they signed Zach Cozart. He's the infielder, so what happens with that? So next we've got Mike Moustakas, third baseman for the Royals. Will he stay with the Royals? Will he go to the Cardinals? The Yankees are on that list too. If I had to pick a team, which I'm not a Royals fan at all, but I think they're going to end up wanting to spend money on him or Eric Hosmer. Hosmer's 28, Moustakas is 29, and I think they're going to end up spending money on one of those two guys. So if I had to pick one, I would probably say it's going to be Hosmer and not Moustakas. So I probably would see him going to the Cardinals possibly. Cardinals were another team in the hunt for Giancarlo Stanton. Did not get him either. So a lot of these teams who put all their eggs in this huge basket now have to regroup and figure out what are we going to do instead of Stanton, because that's who we were going after. But when you look at kind of those two players, Moustakas and Hosmer, which out of those two, which one do you think would actually stay with the Royals?
Neither. I don't think either one of them. I think will stay with the Royals because if you remember, at the end of the regular season, there was a farewell moment between Hosmer and Mike Moustakas, And I think Royals fans know that the money that these players are commanding, especially a guy in Moustakas and Hosmer, could potentially command, $100 million, which the Royals obviously will not be in the market to pay for such players. Hosmer is in an interesting spot because there's a lot of talented players that have signed, and there's still a big fish on the market still with a guy in J.D. Martinez, obviously the star for the Diamondbacks. So will a team be willing to pay Hosmer, who is 28 years old? Will he be paid $100 million? Who will step up to pay that kind of money for a guy who at times has been inconsistent? As good of a player as he is, can be inconsistent at times. And at the same time, a guy like Carlos Santana, who just signed a big deal with the Philadelphia Phillies at first base, what kind of market does he, how does he change the market when it comes to Hosmer, who's a very talented defensive first baseman and has a lot of power, has improved his power over the last couple of seasons. So Hosmer's in a very interesting spot, and it may be a situation where he looks around and the Royals might be the only team that may be able to want to bring him in, not necessarily at the $100 million number that he's potentially looking for, but at a little bit of a discount, only because the market has dictated to Hosmer that, hey, you aren't necessarily a $100 million player, and there's very few teams that are even thinking about paying him that kind of money. And Moustakas, a very talented guy who set the Royals record for home runs in the season this past year, is in a very interesting spot also at 29 years old. A very talented third baseman. It'll be interesting to see where he goes, but I don't think the Royals bring back either one of them because of the types of dollars that they will be commanding. Third base is a premium spot in Major League Baseball, and when you can find a good one, you'll pay good money to keep it or sign one. Right. So I think Moustakas will have an opportunity to make some good money somewhere, but I just don't think the Royals will be in that market to be able to pay for him. This offseason.
The Royals, they're that team where they're gonna do it. To me, this is me looking on the outside looking in. They're gonna do it the most cost-effective way. So they're gonna build from the ground up. They may reach out for some players, but they're not going to be willing to spend out of this world. And it seems like they're going to want to be smart with it. They won at the World Series in 2015, so they've been there. They were in the playoffs last year, so they're getting a taste of it. But I think at this point they're not going to break the bank to pay two guys. And if you have a farewell to two players where they haven't even signed with another team. To me, that's a sign that's probably writing on the wall, which is a good point by you, Kevin, that they're probably not coming back if they're doing a farewell. Mocha Bella says the Yankees better win the World Series.
Look, me and you both. You both.
K3000 says, yeah, buddy, so you must be a Yankees fan. But they were pretty close. And I want to get your thoughts on Joe Girardi. I didn't see that firing coming, especially with them making it to the playoffs and them almost making it to the World Series. Were you in agreement with that firing or him leaving, whatever one?
Yeah, I mean, it was a situation where I think both parties knew Joe Girardi. 10 years as a Yankee manager is practically an eternity as a Yankee manager. In the sports world, that's a long time. Exactly. So I think it was a situation where Joe Girardi has a young son that's in high school, and he wants to spend more time with his family and seeing him play. I don't think it was a situation where the Yankees necessarily thought he was doing a bad job. Obviously won a World Series championship and had this Yankee team this year, a year ahead of schedule when it came to their play on the baseball field and getting within one game of going to the World Series. So I think if he had won a World Series, would that have potentially changed his mind? Maybe. But him not making it to the World Series, I think it made it a little bit easier for him to take a step back and say he wants to spend more time with his family. He will have a myriad of opportunities whenever he does decide to come back to the game, whether it be as a manager again or it being on television, to have an opportunity to have a very viable career when he does decide to return to the game. So I was fine with it when he did leave. He did a fantastic job. The guy took over for Joe Torre, which is no easy task to do.